Guys, welcome to the CWE podcast. I'm your host, Gage, or you call me Sensi for short. This podcast is sponsored by WG, Advanced G, and Rogue Energy. Use my code CWE99 for 10% off. And also be sure to check out my brainbusterstees.com for my merch. I have a special guest. He is one of the most polarizing uh, WWE superstars. Um, I'm about to bring him in. Mr. Kennedy. How was that?
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. First off, I want to say this is a huge, big deal to me. Um, my dad passed away in 2010. He was a huge fan of yours.
Hmm.
So, he was also from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, I mean, that's got to be a little correlation to it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, he was a
No.
Packers fan just like you. So go Pack go.
Go back, go. I see.
Yes,
You're
sir.
all decked out today. I love it.
Yes, sir. But yeah, this is like a full circle moment for me. So I really appreciate it.
No, I thank you, and I'm sorry about your father. I
It's all good.
it never. We have good memories of those whom we loved, and you know, but it never gets easier, or it gets easier, but it never goes away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That pain.
We're gonna dive into your wrestling career if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Who trained you?
So I was trained in Green Bay
Okay.
by Mike Mercury and Eric Hammers, two
Okay.
guys who they never made it to the big stage. But the weird thing is like there were about 5 wrestling schools at the time that I could have gone to. Luck of the draw, I just happened to call the right one. And
Right.
or got in was gotten in touch with the right one, because I ended up I called a guy in Chicago, the Chicago area, who got me in touch with Mike and Eric in Green Bay and said, "Hey, they're opening up a wrestling school." And I happened to be their very first student. So
That's cool.
and there were a bunch of schools in the area at the time who, if I had gone to those schools, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now, probably,
For
because
sure.
there's a lot of people who have a brief, they get trained for a few months, they have a match or two, and then they suddenly think that they can open up a wrestling school and teach people.
For sure.
And yeah,
How old were you when you broke into the business?
I was 23, I think. It was 1999. What am I? I don't know. Do the math on that. I'm 49 right now. I think I was 23.
Okay.
I've been in the
Okay.
business now for I'm going on my 26th year.
Okay. Okay. Um, see, who was your favorite opponent to work with?
My favorite opponent ever to work with.
Um, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's really that's a really hard question. Um, I like working with different people for different reasons,
for
but I
sure.
can tell you, like, there's like I can whittle it down to like top 10. That'd
Okay,
be Undertaker, Batista, Shawn Michaels, Matt Hardy, Kurt Angle, um, Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray, um,
absolutely,
Sting. It's hard to just nail down. There were so many. I was really fortunate to have matches with all of those people.
for sure, for sure. Was is there a favorite match you liked having
Yeah.
with? Okay,
Yep. Favorite match I've ever been a part of was Kurt Angle in a steel cage at Lockdown for TNA.
when he did that famous moonsault off
Yep.
the cage. Yep, yep, yep.
Yep.
Dude, that was sick.
Yeah, and it was like, going into that match, normally when we put together matches, like say there's a pay-per-view coming up. Say it was I'm just going back to my own personal career. Like
Yeah.
No Mercy was my first pay-per-view that I worked against Bob Holly.
Okay. Okay.
We built that up for like a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. And then we had the match at the pay-per-view. We didn't talk about that match until 2 o'clock on the day.
Okay.
We finally sat down and said, okay, here's what they want out of us. This is what we're going to do, and kind of mapped out our game plan. Kurt, however, came to me like weeks in advance and said, hey, I'm working all the details out. I pretty much have everything worked out. And I'd never worked like that before.
For sure.
And so they were planning on giving us like 25, 26 minutes, which is a really long time on a pay-per-view. It is a big chunk of TV that you're given. If you get anything over 20 minutes is like a good chunk of time.
For sure.
And then on the day, so we planned this all out, and then on the day, Kurt came up to me and he was pissed, and he said, they're cutting our time. They're shaving like 10 minutes off of our time. And he said, we're gonna go the full time. Just I'll take the heat for it. And if you know anything about TV and working for TV, if you go 30 seconds over your time, you're in trouble.
Right. Right.
You have to be very particular, because like they've timed that whole show out, and then that if you go over on your time, well, that takes away from, so they now have to shave time off of somebody else's.
Right. Right.
So but we ended up going the full 25 minutes or whatever. And true to his word, because he said, we're going the full time. I'll take the heat for it. And nobody ever said a word to me. And Kurt took the blame,
Wow.
I was just following along. I had to do it, it's Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
For sure. As a young kid, how did you first discover wrestling?
So I watched it when I was really little. I remember they had the cartoon on Saturday morning cartoons. It was what was it? It was called Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling.
Okay.
And I watched. Then there was Saturday night's main event would come on every once in a while. My dad would let me stay up, but I never really got into it until I was at a friend's house, and he kind of forced my hand. And I was like, I want to say I was 20 or 21 years old. And I was at a friend's house, and he was like, look, there's this guy who's tearing up the scene right now, and we're going to watch. Just sit tight. And I reluctantly, folded my arms and, okay, all right, I'll watch. And then I heard this glass break, and I saw a bald guy drive to the ring in a pickup truck with a 6-pack of beer on his lap and yelling at the camera guy, get the hell out of my way. And then he went in and started stunnering people and flipping middle fingers. And
that's awesome.
The way that he talked, I was like, okay, that guy's kind of cool.
Right.
This sucks, but like that guy's kind of cool. And then I started watching every week just to see. I'll watch until he comes on, and then I'll stop. Well, he always came on last. So then I'm sitting there watching the whole show, and I get sort of, well, the Undertaker's kind of cool too.
Right.
But everybody else still kind of sucks. And then the next week, well, D-Generation X, they're pretty funny. And then slowly but surely I got sucked into it. And then at the time, that's all people were talking about. Wrestling was so it was on fire. And I would go to work. And so I worked as a nuclear security officer. And we would sit in these little boxes, right? There'd be like 12 or 13 different stations around the plant. And you go to this little box, you'd sit there for an hour and watch a section of a fence or some monitors or something like that, or just be there. And we had nothing to do, literally nothing to do. So they had phones in those stations. We would call each other and go, hey, did you see what just happened on Monday Night Raw? yeah. It was and then like you go to the next station and you call another person and you talk about the same thing. And it was just like that's just the way it was. And I was at a party one night, and we were talking wrestling, as you do. And one of my friends said, "Dude, you can go to like wrestling schools. There's like," he goes, "My mom works with somebody who says," she said that her son is like, he's learning how to be a wrestler. And I'd
Right.
never thought, how do guys do this? How do you fall into this line of work?
Right.
And I just, that's all I could think about. I went home and I got on the internet. It wasn't Google at the time. It was like Ask Jeeves or something like that,
Right.
and looked up wrestling schools. And I remember thinking at the time, like, I'm gonna have to go to one of the big cities, right? Because there's no way that they're gonna have a pro wrestling school anywhere near me. So I
For sure.
started thinking that the nearest city to me was Chicago. It's about like 2.5 hours away from me. And
Okay.
I thought, if I find a school there, I'll drive down. And so I reached out to that person. That person got me in touch with Mike and Eric in Green Bay, which was
That's
30
awesome.
minutes from my house. So
You are most famous for that nasty chair shot that the Undertaker took on you. Was that was that like a receipt or
no, I don't think so.
Okay,
No,
okay,
no. If Here, the thing about Taker is that if he would have never done something like that as a receipt.
right,
I
okay,
would have
okay,
known that my receipt was coming.
okay,
He would never have just like, in our business, if receipts are kind of bullshit. And it's
okay,
kind of like something that I think more people need to realize is that, like, the only reason to ever give somebody a receipt is if they're being really, really out of line. They're really trying to hurt you,
of
or
course,
being super reckless and careless.
okay, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
no, you're gonna get a boo boo in the wrestling business every once in a
right,
while.
for sure,
It hurts. It hurts, and we are trying to make it look like we're hurting each other really bad without actually, while taking care of each other. But sometimes accidents happen. And I've been in the ring many, many, many times where somebody would hit me with something and go, "Oh, sorry," and I'm like, "That's okay, no big deal, no worries." And
right,
then, for the next 5 days, I'm hobbling around, or I've got a
yeah,
huge black eye or something like that. But no, that definitely not a receipt. It was just,
just
you
really
know,
good chair shot.
yep, really good chair shot.
Um, so you like chewing gum every time you came down a, entrance. Was it true that Vince didn't like you chewing gum? Like, he had a problem with you chewing gum or something like that?
He hated it. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is like, I started doing it. Well, one, because I get cotton mouth when I wrestle, like,
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah,
right?
makes sense.
And two, it used to irritate my grandma. And I remember seeing other people that would get irritated by it. Like, look at the way that guy's chewing his gum. Look at him. Just look at him. And so, as a heel, my job is to do things that irritate people, right? And get heat.
Absolutely.
And I just thought that was like a little added. Sometimes I do things that aren't, um, they're not so like in your face.
For
But
sure.
when people notice them, when they pick up on them, they go like, "Ah," and then that
Right, right.
particular joke or whatever was for that person. Do you know what I'm saying?
For
Like,
sure.
and, so, yeah, and so the fact that Vince was irritated by it was, like, so kind of ironic, because it's like, if you're irritated by it, you've seen everything,
Right.
you know what I'm trying to do. I'm irritating you, like, legit, he would be so mad about it.
Wow.
So, but
Um,
I just
you
kept doing it.
you just kept doing it.
Mhm,
That's great. You had your first WWE debut in what, 2005 against
mhm.
Funaki?
Yep.
Did you get any jitters or nervousness?
Well, I mean, I think I still get jitters and nervousness
Okay, okay.
To this day, if I wrestle in front of, 100 people, I'm nervous.
For sure.
I think if that nervousness is positive stress. It's
Of
it's
course.
eustress. It's like you wanna do a good job and you care about the business and you so I think that if that goes away, there's something wrong.
For sure.
However, yeah, I really I was stressed, but at the same time, it was the most confident that I had ever been in that position because 'cause I'd done tons and tons of dark matches before,
Okay.
lots of, like, Jacked and Sunday Night Heat and that kinda stuff, and here, Dave Lagana it was originally scheduled to just be a dark match.
Okay.
I was at OVW at the time, I had just started doing the announcer thing or, saying my last name, announcing myself. They wanted to see that, but it was, the finish was Funaki was gonna super kick me 1, 2, 3, and
Okay.
I'm in gorilla position, which is, for those that don't know, right behind the curtain. It's where Gorilla Monsoon sat, so we've continued to call it the gorilla position,
For sure.
um, to honor him, uh, and Dave Lagana came walking up to me and said, "There's a change. We need to come up with a finisher for you because you're going over in this match. Um, this is now going to be a televised match. It's not going to be a dark match. It's going to be on it was Velocity at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is going to be a Velocity match." And he stuck out his hand and said, "Welcome aboard." And that was it. And I remember I saw Vince walk by me because Vince would never go. He literally, like, so there would be, like, say one or two dark matches,
Mhm.
right? Completely non-televised matches, and then there would be one or two Sunday Night Heat or Velocity matches, and he would only come and sit down, like, literally right before SmackDown started, and
Wow.
he came, he just nodded at me and sat in gorilla position. I found out later on that, somebody had smartened him up and said, like, "You're gonna go up and watch this match." So he
Oh,
specifically
yeah.
was there to watch my match. Um, so nervous, yes, but, like, in the best possible way.
For sure. Let's see. You win the United States Championship in 2006. Can you take me through that run?
Yeah, what was it, like a month long? It
I
wasn't
think
very
so.
long. So the thing was, I won the United States Championship, and then Taker decided he wanted to work with me.
Okay.
And so it didn't make sense for me to have the United States Championship, like, that title, and I'm not saying anything against the United States Championship or those that hold it, but that is sort of beneath Taker. Like,
For
he
sure.
heavyweight championship or bust for Taker, that's
Yeah.
and you don't even necessarily he didn't even need to, he was such an iconic figure that he didn't even need to be really going for the title. It was something that just sort of, like, lived by itself. Um, and so, yeah, that was sort of why it was so short-lived, because I had a match with Batista, and, he saw it, he watched it, and I had a good showing for myself, and, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I saw what you did with Batista. I really liked it. I think you and I could make some money together. I'm gonna pitch this to the boss." And he did, and, you know, "All right, we're gonna start working house shows here coming up." And so then it was like, "We You don't need this championship." And so I dropped it to Benoit, I think, of
Gotcha.
all
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, was that your first championship that you won?
It was, yeah.
It was. Okay.
In the
Okay.
WWE, yeah.
For sure. Let's see. You win the Money in the Bank.
First and only, really. I mean, I
Okay.
never
Yeah.
won another championship in the WWE. I did win Money in the Bank, but,
Yep.
oops.
Yeah. I'm about to say. So yeah, you lost the Money in the Bank to Edge, but they thought you had a torn tricep, but it turned out to be a hematoma.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yep. It
wild.
was, and in fact, they pulled me in the office and told me, "You're going to," Vince told me. excuse me, Vince told me, we're going to put the title on you next week. And he laid out the scenario that Taker was injured and that he was going to have a cage match, and then he was going to barely eke out the victory in that cage match, and then somebody was going to come out and do some more damage, and then I was going to come out and pick the bones, basically cash in the briefcase, be the new champ. And then the next time I wrestled was Saturday house show in Poughkeepsie, and I took just a straight back bump, just a normal back bump. Batista gave me a clothesline, and I felt something pop in my triceps. And I rolled out to the ring, and I immediately saw it start swelling up. By the time I got downstairs, it was already like really puffy and starting to turn colors. And I went to the ER that night, got an MRI, and then just went and waited in my hotel room. They were like, just sit tight when we get the results from your MRI. And I remember Stephanie calling me in my hotel room saying, Ken, you tore your tricep. We're going to have to, you're going to have surgery. You're going to be out for, they said, anywhere from like 8 to 10 months with the rehab and everything. But unfortunately, we still have to get that title off of Taker. So we're going to have the jet's going to come pick you up. The corporate jet going to come pick you up and fly you to Penn State tonight for Raw, and Edge is going to challenge you for the briefcase, and then he's going to go on and do what you were supposed to do. And so, okay, company man, like, that's cool.
What you got to do. Yeah.
It is what it is. It's, I'll go away for a while. This sucks, but I'll go away for a while, and I'll come back, and they'll write me back in, like, I went and dropped the title or dropped the briefcase to Edge. And then flew down to Birmingham, Alabama to meet with Dr. James Andrews. And I'm sitting on his table, and he's feeling my tricep, and he's like, that's not a tear. Just by feeling it, he was able to tell that's not a tear.
That's crazy.
And he couldn't find the MRI to like confirm it, but he was like, you can tell. You can feel like a big hole there when there is a tear and there's no hole. So, and sure enough, I got another MRI and found out it was basically a bunch of blood vessels that had broken in there.
Right.
And I will tell you this, it was one of the most painful things I've ever endured in my life. So for the first week, it hurt so bad. It was like, it just kept swelling and swelling and swelling. Like I considered taking a knife or a razor blade and just cutting into my skin just to relieve the pressure. And I almost went to the ER, but I just kind of like, I'm just going to suck it up here. And I waited it out, and then finally the swelling started going down a little bit.
That's wild. That's crazy. Let's see. The Orton incident where you gave Orton a back suplex. There was conversations where he got upset about it. Is that true?
Yeah. And I'll say this, like, you can go back and watch the tape. Like, he said that I dropped him on his head, I dropped him on his neck, and he went and got his neck taped up, iced up. You can watch the tape. Slow it down and see if his neck comes in contact with the mat. So, and
it was like a freak accident.
It wasn't even a freak accident. I didn't drop him on his head.
Gotcha. You later go to TNA, become a 2-time TNA world champ. Can you walk me through those 2 runs?
Man, they were at the time, honestly, it was such a blur, everything going on. It was just I wish I could sit here and tell you that I remembered exactly what was going on during those times and where my head was at.
Right.
I will tell you, my head wasn't really like, I wasn't loving the business at the time. Unfortunately. Gotcha. I remember doing I think it was either my first or my second run as champ. where, like, I did an interview and somebody said, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?" And I was like, "If I'm still doing this 5 years from now, somebody shoot me." Which
Yeah,
is a
okay, yeah,
crazy, it's such a
yep,
crazy thing to like, when now I'm running it back, it's like, what was I thinking?
right,
And I was
right.
just in a bad spot,
Of course,
mentally. And I regret stuff like that, but it is what it is, and that was the way I felt at the time. Um, but, yeah, I do remember, I won a title off of, Jeff Hardy, and
yep.
he had made up his own version of the title.
Yeah, the purple
You
one?
Yeah, that purple one.
Yeah.
I used to call it the Divas title. 'Cause it reminded me, it was a smaller title, and it reminded me of sort of like that butterfly title that the
Yep,
Divas had or whatever, same shape. Um, and, yeah, but I remember I never actually held the big gold title
right.
I which was a beautiful title. It's one of my favorite titles ever,
For
is
sure, for
that
sure.
TNA championship, that heavyweight championship
Yeah.
was really beautiful.
So you only held the Hardy belt twice?
No, I did hold I did hold the other one once, 'cause
Okay, okay.
I won, I believe I beat Sting for one of the championships, and I beat Jeff
Yeah,
Hardy for one of the
that's cool.
championships.
Jeff
Yeah.
Hardy's one of my favorites, absolutely. How was it working with him?
Just such a dream, and
For
Jeff,
sure.
right from the get-go, I remember the first time I ever worked him was on Monday Night Raw,
Okay, yeah,
um, and it was just, I part of my move set was because of Jeff. I did the Kenton bomb off the top rope,
yeah,
it was literally the second thing that I wanted to learn when I started becoming a pro wrestler. I wanted to learn how to do the swanton
that's
because I
awesome.
had just seen Jeff do it on Monday Night Raw, and I was in practice a few days later, like, how do we do this?
For sure,
Um, so yeah, and he was just like, the thing about Jeff was just very, very creative all the time, always thinking like, how can we do this a little differently?
for
What's
sure. It
the
seems like you
setup?
guys always had chemistry, very good chemistry in the ring, you know,
Mhm.
where whether it was TNA, WWE, I mean, you 2 always had that fire with each other.
Yeah, I agree. Loved working with Jeff.
Another one, um, how was it working with Eddie?
Hmm.
I mean, he was one of a kind. I mean, I was like, what, 5 when I was watching him, but, like, he was so fun to watch.
He really was, man. Like, the the cool thing about Eddie was, didn't really wanna talk about it in the locker room too much.
Right,
Just listen to me out there. And so a lot of what you see is just kinda working on the fly. But
for
he
sure,
was so good, so intense, so helpful too with everybody. It wasn't just me, it was like I would see him taking anybody who asked him a question, he he wanted to help. His mentality was, if we're all good, then the whole show is good and
right.
more people are going to tune in to see it.
He's a team
And
player for sure.
totally team player, man.
Like, I know you are his last match, and,
Mhm.
like, how does that make you feel? Like, honestly, um, like, I know that's gotta be kind of a rough subject, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's awful. I wish he was here.
For sure.
I would rather that he was here, but it is something that, like, I I was wrong place at the wrong place, the wrong time, where, like, I nobody else can say that. Nobody else can say that they had Eddie's final match here on Earth, and, like, it's an honor, It's unfortunate, but it
Right,
is an honor.
for sure. Let's see, how is, it's probably a lot different, but how is TNA and WWE different backstage?
Backstage, I feel like at the time, WWE was, you knew who the top guys were, and um, I've said this before. There were two mountains. There was Raw and SmackDown, and on the SmackDown side, you had all those people that worked on SmackDown dropping, like, throwing their hands down and rope ladders down, and it's like, come on, we can all exist up here on the top of this mountain. The air is fine.
For
And
sure.
on the Raw side, you had guys pouring buckets of hot oil over the side and kicking rocks down and boulders and like, stay off my mountain. This is my
Right.
mountain.
For sure.
So it was very, and you had guys always walking around sort of on eggshells. Like, is today the day that I'm going to get future endeavored? Is today the day that, and Matt Hardy and I used to joke. It was kind of like, we wrestlers have a tendency to have some dark humor, right? But like,
For sure.
every time there would be a round of firings, like where somebody would get released, Matt Hardy, I'd text Matt or Matt would text me like, they got him. They got him. And it was so and so. We have come to the terms on the release of so and so. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors. They got him. Look, they got him. And then one
Um,
day, I called him up and said, Matt, they got me.
you were part of the TNA roster back in what 2010, 2012, where they were starting to shoot up in the ratings.
Mhm.
And at one point, I thought TNA was gonna actually compete with WWE at one point because I mean they had you on there, they had Sting, Jeff Hardy, I mean Samoa
Hulk,
Joe, AJ Styles, Hulk
Hulk
Hogan,
Hogan.
Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff. And I mean, at some
Yeah.
point I thought it was it was going to turn into another Monday Night Wars or something like that.
Yeah.
But how did that make you feel? You were on a company, kind of in a way competing with a former company. I mean, that's pretty cool in my opinion.
I think in the locker room, we never thought that we could compete directly on a, like, just head-to-head basis with the juggernaut that is
Oh,
WWE, right? Like,
right. I mean, they even made a video game of the in that year of y'all.
yeah, but
That's so
well,
cool.
we never thought like we're gonna compete directly head to head, but we knew that we had something special, and we knew that the talent in that locker room cared. We cared about going out there and putting on the best possible product. Um, and so we weren't really worried about what WWE was doing. We weren't trying openly, at least most of us weren't trying to rekindle the Monday Night Wars directly. We didn't want to
Right,
have
right.
that because it was like the Monday Night Wars were kind of nasty
They were, yeah.
and at times, and the nastiness actually ended up being sort of the downfall,
Right.
right? Like when Eric went on and said, tonight, big shocker, Mick Foley's winning the title, right? Because like Raw used to be taped, or it would be a live Raw, and then Raw would be taped on Tuesday for the
Right.
following week. So they knew, everybody, the dirt sheets already
The
knew
dirt sheets, yeah.
what was going to happen, and they were able to like break it down to the, I think it's quarter hours. And at that moment when Eric Bischoff said that Mick Foley was going to win the title, everybody turned their channels,
Mm,
turned over and watched WWE. So, um, we didn't necessarily want to rekindle that, redo that, but we
right.
knew that we had something special, and we
For
were
sure.
all we were all definitely in it. It was definitely, and they would do every few months. Dixie Carter would give us the old rah rah speech, and it was good. It worked. I like stuff like that, man.
Hell yeah.
People can poo poo it all they want, but
For sure.
ultimately, you get a group of men and women together, and you are able to like talk them up and sort of cheer them on. Like, it works. It works every
For
time.
sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it had me glued onto the TV. I mean, like I was born watching WWE, and then like 2010 hits, TNA starts to jump to the roof, and I'm like, okay, now we got something different. Like it was fun. It was fun back then.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. How did your how did your mic gimmick come about? You
So
say
so, you know, one night at OVW, like, Paul Heyman had been at OVW for a few weeks, and then he just said, "Okay, tonight, you're gonna go out there, and you're gonna" Dean Hill was the name of the announcer,
okay,
and he also sat at commentary, and he was like, "You're gonna go out there," and I had sort of been kinda messing with Dean Hill along the way, I was ma he
right,
had, like, one of those curly mustaches, I'd pick on him about his mustache, and, um kinda get into it with him a little bit, and so he's like, "Tonight, go out there, you rip the microphone out of his hand, and then you do your own introduction," and he's sort of like, "Ladies and gentlemen," Paul did his own version of what I do today
right.
and said, "Just make it big," and so I did it, and I used to announce basketball games when I was in high school, and I used to hit the last name twice
Okay.
for our team only,
Right, right.
and And I just like in the moment, I just remembered that and I hit my last name twice and I came back to the curtain and everybody was like, "That right there, that's it. Keep
That
doing
was
that. That was
awesome.
funny. That was awesome. When you said your last name twice, we popped." And if the boys pop for something, it's there's a pretty good chance that the people are gonna pop for it because we're
For
sort
sure.
of cynical. We've seen everything. We kind of know the ins and outs of the business. Yeah,
Facts.
so it works, and we knew it was gonna work, and I just continued doing it from there, and then when I got to WWE and literally 2 or 3 weeks after I started doing that, I believe it was 5 weeks exactly after I started doing that I was making my debut on Velocity
That's
for
cool.
yeah. So, and then maybe a few weeks of just doing it with the normal microphone, and then it was one of the writers that had the idea, like, "Hey, let's drop a microphone down from the ceiling." And so the first one you see, it's just like a normal, regular barrel mic.
Right, right.
It doesn't look very good, and then I think it was Vince said, "That looks like shit.
We gotta redo it.
We gotta get him something that looks good." And so then they got that proper, this
R
gimmick.
that one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have you openly, have said you have a good relationship with Paul Heyman.
Mhm.
Um, how was working with Paul, in the business and in the industry, he's got probably one of the greatest minds when it comes to pro wrestling.
Paul is just special, like always thinking, always has his finger on the pulse. I believe he's responsible for more that you see on a week to week basis than you
Mhm.
realize when it
Right.
comes to WWE programming. So he's, sort of got his fingers in a lot.
For sure.
And he's just he cares. He loves the business and he understands the business and he's he's created superstar after superstar after superstar,
He's
you know?
been involved
Just
one of the most, you know, most popular storylines in recent memories.
yeah. And
So
repeatedly over and over again, first Brock, then with Roman, Punk,
right.
Seth, it's like Braun Breaker, it's like it just keeps
Keeps
it's
on
always
going,
successful, always successful, always
for sure.
successful.
Your finisher move, the mic check, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I I wanna say it was Johnny Ace. Johnny Ace, I was doing
Okay.
the Finley roll off the second rope, and I remember, like, JBL in the locker room was I was in the locker room, and I remember JBL yelling across the locker room to Taker. He was like, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, kid, that finisher you got, that's a hell of a finisher." He goes, "Taker, you gonna ever take that?" Taker was like, "Nope." "Yeah, yeah, me neither. I'm never taking that move, but it looks nice. It looks cool." And I started thinking like I should probably come up with something that I can do to everybody.
Right, right.
which I already knew that, but it was just, it was one of those situations. The way it came about in the first place was kind of crazy. Was I was, in that moment where I was supposed to just do the dark match with Funaki and he was going to super kick me and that was going to be it. And Dave said, we need to come up with a finisher for you. Well, Finley was our producer. And he was like, what do you got for a finisher? And I said, actually, I've done the Finley roll. I had done it one time to Austin Aries for
Okay,
IWA
yeah.
Mid-South for Ian Rotten's promotion. I had done it one time off the second rope. And I knew that I could do it safely, and I had never seen anybody do it before. And I was like, I can do this. I can do it safely. And I remember Funaki's eyes just went like, and I was like, I promise you, I'll take care of you. Just hold tight. I'll set you down as gently as possible.
That's funny.
And the thing is, I had been around long enough. I had done enough dark matches. Funaki knew who I was.
For sure.
Sort of. He knew that I was trusted, and he trusted me in that moment. He said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Just please, please, please don't,
Right.
If I hurt him, he goes and sits at home and doesn't get paid.
Right, for sure.
That's just the way the business goes.
For sure.
So yeah, and then so I was doing it and I kept doing it. And then when I had that little interaction with JBL in the locker room, I was like, I should probably come up with something. And then I think Michael Hayes and Johnny both said, let's come up with something else for you to do. And Johnny said, what about a flatliner? And I think it was one of the, Johnny had like a few moves that he had been trying to give to people for a really long time.
Right.
And then I just happened to, like, I hooked his leg on the way down. That was a little bit of a different look.
Let's see. You who would you say your role model or your mentor would be, like, for pro wrestling?
For pro wrestling?
Yeah.
I think, I just say my grandpa was my role model in life. Really, like,
Yeah.
it was somebody that I always wanted to be like. I felt like he was like kind. He worked hard, but he was good to people. And then once I got into business and got to know like Steve Austin to this day, he was my favorite pro wrestler.
Yep.
And then turns out he's actually, they say never meet your heroes. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the case. I did not have that experience. I had a great experience. And Steve is a great human being who actually cares about people and treats people with respect. And there's a really sort of famous moment that he had on that show called Punked.
Yeah.
It's like it's an example for those that haven't seen it. It's like Austin is waiting to get his car at a hotel, like waiting for the valet to get his car, and this supervisor is acting like a dick to somebody that's underneath him, and Austin like sticks up for the guy, and that's just kind of the way that he is in real life. So
That's awesome.
and yep.
You run a wrestling school. How did that come about? And you also train. She's a former women's champion, Tiffany
Yep.
Stratton.
Yep.
How is it, coaching her? What's she like as a, student?
So the first question, how did the wrestling school come about? It was something that I always wanted to do. I felt like when we broke into the business, we were like, my trainers happened to know enough. They
For
knew
sure.
a lot, and they knew they sort of broke me in the right way, teaching me about like respect but there was a lot of things that they didn't know that I sort of had to figure out over the years.
Okay.
and I always wanted to make sure that, like, I didn't know anybody. I literally knew nobody. I had to make every connection that I have to this day, every friendship that I have, I went out and, you know, I cultivated those friendships, those relationships,
For sure.
and I wanted to make sure that I was able to make it easier for people to get into the business, to I because I've if it all ends tomorrow, I've had a good run. I
Yeah, I
literally have had a fantastic time. I've traveled the world. I've wrestled my heroes. I've worked with my heroes. I've done a movie. It's just and it still keeps going to this day. And so like I wanted to make sure that I cut the corners for people
for sure.
and train them the right way. Make sure that I, you know, teach them how to bump the right way. Teach them how to get up the right way. Teach them how to hit the ropes the right way. And the one thing I will say is, like, the cool thing for me is that when my students start having matches, oftentimes the promoter knows it's their first match, but, like, other people will say to those people, "What how long have you been working?" And that person says, "This is my first match." And the response is always the same, like, "Wow, that's your first match? Damn." Like, and I want to
Right.
continue that. Um, about Tiffany, you know, I I'll take credit, right? Because like, I
For
was the
sure.
guy that however, like, she's the type of talent, she's the type of athlete that she coulda gone to another school, and she'd probably be in the same boat right now. Do you
You
know what I
think
mean?
so?
Like, I didn't bring her to WWE. She's extremely talented.
Mhm.
Hopefully, like, some of this I was able to teach her some stuff that other people don't know or aren't aware of, you know? Like, I
Right.
did have, some of my students went and did a WWE tryout, and they said, you know, it's crazy because the coaches at the tryout were telling these guys to they kept harping at them to do this, do it this way, and we were already doing it because you do it that way, and you taught us that way, and it's second nature to us.
Wow.
Um, but, like, you know, Tiff was interestingly, she didn't have the character. She was like, didn't have the character at all. She was very like, I have her first promo, and I'll hopefully, with her permission, show it someday, and it's crazy.
Mm.
Like, it'll go in her, you know, WWE reaches out to me and asks me for that. It's gonna be like, I can't believe that that was her first promo. Um, but she didn't know, you know, and that
Right,
it
right.
was a muscle that she had never exercised before. She's just a phenomenal athlete, but had never really done any acting or anything like that. So it was her first attempt.
Oh, that's pretty cool that you coached her. It you know, it has to mean something to you, you know, and you have to feel good about it.
Well, and, you know, and it's like my other students too that have it's like I get to sort of live vicariously through them. I have Dante and Darius Martin over at AEW, and
Okay,
I've got, Julia Hart at AEW, who's had a hell of a
okay.
run over there, and I've got, Von Wagner, who is working in NXT, you know,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
um, yeah, all those people, like, Gable Steveson, he didn't have, you know, didn't have a very long career in the WWE, but, like,
Right.
he was a blast to train with.
For sure.
Kinda crazy how that all came about. Like, he messaged me one day. He had won the gold medal, signed with WWE. They drafted him to Monday Night Raw. And then, like, a month later, maybe 2 months later, I get a message, a voicemail saying, "Hey, this is Gable Steveson. I'd like to see about, coming and training there." And I immediately thought, like, "Ah, somebody's just ribbing me. There's no way that, this is actually Gable."
Right.
And then he hit me back and left another message, and I was like, "This person is really relentless." And I listened to an interview that he had I went to YouTube and I listened to an interview and I was like, "Oh, that actually sounds like him. That I think that is him." And I called him, and he was like, "Yeah, I haven't done anything. Like they signed me, but I'm just sitting here." He goes, "I want to
Right.
learn. I want to get in the ring." And so he came and first day, I remember I was like, what have you done? What do you know?" And he's like, "Nothing." I was like, "Do you know how to run the ropes?" "No, I don't know nothing."
Mm,
So I taught him to run the ropes. I taught him how to bump. Kind of
that's
crazy.
crazy.
But
Yeah.
he picked it up so quickly, it's like
Okay.
we get up a certain way every time. You take a bump, you get up a certain way. And I
Right.
told him how to do that. I showed him how to do that. And he got up exactly the opposite way. And he immediately like just froze and he reversed himself back down and then he did it the right way. And
Oh
usually
yeah,
it takes tons and tons and tons of coaching.
for sure, for sure. You were part of the probably one of the biggest faction in TNA, Aces and Eights.
Mhm.
How was that? How was that faction? How was that storyline? And get to work with AJ Styles, who just now retired from WWE, but that must have been
AJ,
really fun.
it was such a fun, like the whole Aces and Eights thing was so fun. And we really like just got to hang out and have a good time and come up with different ideas. And, it was Eric Bischoff that was Eric's baby, really.
I have to say, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and to this day, like I had him at my school for a seminar and he said it's literally one of the most fun things that he's done. It's one of his proudest accomplishments in the wrestling business was Aces and Eights storyline. Unfortunately, I feel like it didn't, it just kind of like abruptly came to an end. Although, like, I will say that one of the funniest things, most favorite things that I've done in the business was that funeral that we had for the Aces and Eights.
oh yeah, yeah, yep, yep,
That was
yep.
that was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, there was. What was the second part of that question? You said Aces
How
and
was
Eights.
working with AJ?
Oh, AJ is. I would say he's the second best performer that I've ever been in the ring with. And it's
There's a,
hard to say. The first is Shawn Michaels,
I was gonna say you work with Shawn Michaels. I think I've heard you say that before. So yeah, that's pretty
but
cool.
AJ is AJ special. He really is. So just the way he makes and the thing is AJ doesn't only make himself look good, he makes his opponents look good too.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so that Aces and Eights storyline that was something different. That was really that storyline was something special for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Do you have a Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers?
So my Mount Rushmore has about 10 people on it. Like it's
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
like I could just to whittle it down to four, but if you held me to it, I'd say Austin, Rock, Kurt, Sean. Like
That's yeah, I see
if
that.
you held my feet to the fire and said you have to pick four, but like I really there's a lot more that should be on that,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily like one is better than the other. It's just like they're all tied.
For sure, for sure.
It's like
Um, we're about to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Do you have any socials and or merch you have out?
I do. You can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Ken Anderson or Mr. Anderson. And then also you can go to prowrestling.com/Mike Check,
Okay,
which you can get. We have some T-shirts for my podcast, which
okay,
I recently, like in the last 8 months or so, I started a podcast that's really,
okay.
really
Cool,
been
cool, cool.
growing. We're still growing, but we're starting to get to the point where like it's really the numbers are starting to tick up. And I've
For
stated
sure.
this publicly. When we get to 100,000 subscribers, we're gonna do a deep, deep, deep dive on that whole Randy Orton, John Cena thing.
Okay, yeah, for sure,
The backdrop, the belly to back suplex of doom.
for
So
sure.
Yeah, for those of you that are watching and want to tune in, it's Mike Check with Mr. Anderson on YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can get your podcasts from. But yeah, tune in, like, subscribe, interact. Like I love interacting with fans.
For sure, for sure. Do you have any questions for me?
No, man. Just
Okay.
thank you. I really, really appreciate you having me on here. And
For sure, for sure. I appreciate you
yeah,
having being on here and be able to talk a little bit of pro wrestling and your career. It's just yeah, it's like a dream come true for me right now.
good, man. Oh, I'm happy. Anytime you want to do this in the future, just let me know.
For sure,
If
for sure,
anybody's interested and anybody wants to also have me on their podcast or book me, I still take bookings. I'm working every other weekend. Or you want to get wrestling training, I also do one-on-one coaching live. I just I I'll either do in-person training or Zoom training where we
for,
can break down matches and things like that, or psychology.
for
Um,
sure.
and you can reach out to me directly, and the number is 507-722-2776. Just
Awesome, awesome,
shoot me a text.
for sure. I like I said, I really appreciate you having being on the show. Um, it's an honor for sure. So
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
no problem. So guys, this is gonna be the podcast for today. I'll have another one here in about 6:30. I'm gonna do one with Eric Surge. He's from OVW. I don't know if you've heard of him before.
No, no.
No, yeah. But yeah, he wrestles in OVW. I've done one with Jake Painter before. But yeah, I'm doing this just to I pro wrestling's been a huge part of my life. Ever since I remember my first memorable match of watching was Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, and Kurt Angle, that triple threat match, and it just got me hooked into pro wrestling. So to able to do this and bring people into pro wrestling who hasn't seen it
Yeah,
for a very long time or just gotten out of it, my goal is to bring people back into it. And yeah, so having you hopefully will help me shoot my channel up a little bit more.
yeah.
But absolutely, 100%. I really appreciate you for having being on the show, though.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Gage. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. You have a good day, man.
You too.
And that was Mr. Anderson, guys. Dude, that was like that's a dream come true for me. Like, if I can show you the goosebumps right now, I got goosebumps. Like, that was awesome. So he was an awesome guest. I hope to have him here again soon. Um, hopefully in a couple months. But like, did I enjoyed diving into his wrestling career, knowing about him. It was just a full circle moment for me. Like, I couldn't ask for a better, situation. But yeah, just to be able to sit down and talk with the dude who, my dad was a huge fan of it means something to me. So, uh, I'll get some clips later after this is over, but man, I'm doing it, I guess. So if you guys want to check out my sponsorships, WGDUBBYGG, Rogue Energy, Advance G. Use my code CWE99 for 10% off on all purchase order. Helps me gain commission. And be sure to check out my merch, brainbusterstees.com. You're after school, but you'll see my logo. And I got hats, stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, you name it. Go grab you some. And yeah, I guys hope you guys enjoyed this episode 16, I believe, episode 16. So yeah, Mr. Anderson, um, that dude is unbelievable. He's so awesome. So I think this was a pretty good episode. Um, if you guys like it, give me a good old fat like. Give me a subscribe. It would mean the world to me. But yeah, that is episode 16. So appreciate it, guys, and I hope to hear some feedback from you guys.